Very, very good evening, everybody. I say good evening because I am in Mallorca right now. My name is Richie Prior. We are looking at the Premier League season, which starts this coming weekend. And I'm really pleased to be joined by TalkSport's top commentator. Would you call yourself young Adam? Adam Bridge. Adam Bridge from TalkSport is my fellow Premier League analyst. He's the expert. I'm just the guy that puts it all together, really. Is that right, Adam?
I don't know about that. I mean, I think questionably the top commentator and the young bit already we're going to get a steward's inquiry on those two. But listen, we'll give it a go as we look ahead to this new season.
Yeah. We are, of course, starting with the Premier League this coming weekend. We start with Arsenal against Fulham. The big kickoff is at 12:30 UK time, 1:30 where I am over here in Spain. Adam, let's first of all, I think I wanted to start on obviously pre-season we're in now, and we're looking at the transfer window. Who, in your opinion, right now has nailed the transfer window? And that's a big question to ask because we don't know until the real kick-off. But you know, with the names that have been signed, who do you reckon?
It's a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? Because we've obviously still got 2 or 3 weeks left of the transfer window, and I think the truncated manner of it has made it quite difficult for some clubs. But I think undoubtedly the side that's shown some real intent has got to be Chelsea. I think it's a blue theme, actually, because I think pushing them quite close are going to be Everton. I mean, you look at the acquisitions that Chelsea have made. I mean, the one thing it does do is heap 2 ton of pressure on Frank Lampard because, you know, Abramovich has gone out, the checkbook is out. They've made up for the lack of signings they've been able to make due to their transfer embargo. And you look at the quality and also the timing of the signings. You know, they've clearly been working on these. This is clearly a structured plan that they've chosen to deliver. I know Havertz has come through quite late for them compared to the rest of the business they've done. But we all knew that was a deal they were working on a long way through. And the quality that they've added, I mean, for me, the most exciting one, it might surprise you, is Ziyech. And that's only because I used to cover a lot of Dutch football, you know, 6 or 7 years ago. And he was a player that I've driven my sons mad with by saying, look, every time you get on FIFA, go and be him. Because he was exceptional when he was playing for Twente a long time ago. And obviously he's grown at his time with Ajax, and he will set the Premier League alight. There's no doubt about that. And if he's providing the quality for the likes of Timo Werner, obviously they've lost Willian, but I think they've done more than enough to compensate. And by bringing in someone like Thiago Silva, the one thing they were lacking last season was that quality at the back. And there's no doubt that someone like Silva provides that. And that's what they really needed. So for Chelsea, they had to do the work if they want to try and compete with Liverpool and Man City. They've done it. Now, for me, the pressure all goes on Frank Lampard.
Yeah, because most people would say that they really should have be strengthened in the defence after last season. That was where the problems were. The problems were in central defence. As you say, Thiago Silva's come in. Ben Chilwell, of course, is in most people's book England's left back. A great signing. But it's the goalkeeper they haven't replaced yet. I mean, are they going to replace Kepa? I mean, he cost a lot of money, 72 million, I think it was, from Atletico Bilbao. He's still Spain's number 2 goalkeeper behind De Gea, who's, you know, also had his critics, to be perfectly honest. So do we think before the window closes, Kepa will still be the number 1?
I think we will see a keeper arrive. I think the big question is whether, and my understanding is there's a real confidence that they may still try to add Declan Rice from West Ham to their ranks.
Which is your club, by the way. If people don't know, that's your club, young man. So
yeah, we'll come on.
How do you feel about that?
You can provide me some therapy about West Ham later. The key there is that he wants to play Rice as a centre half.
Okay.
He wants to play out from the back, and he sees Rice with his ball playing ability. You know, he is a terrific defender. He's a terrific tackler. He's a terrific reader of the game, and he also can play football. And I think that's what Lampard sees. The question is, could West Ham be willing to sell Rice, bearing in mind the revolt that we've just seen over the sale of Grady Diangana?
Yeah.
I think it would be a step too far. I've always said, and I know a lot of Chelsea fans, I've always said to them, just give us one more season with him. One more season, then you come and pay your 70 million and you can take him away from us. But I think one more season, he'll probably stay. But I agree with you, it's the one thing they need. But we will see a keeper. Pretty sure we'll see a keeper in at Chelsea in probably about the next 3 or 4 days.
think probably the most surprising thing that we're seeing right now is that Liverpool haven't made any signings really whatsoever. Most teams would say, you win the league, you look to sort of build on what you've gone. Are you going to try and build a dynasty here, of the old Liverpool days of the 70s and the 80s when, year after year, they used to always make one sort of marquee signing. Even though they were winning leagues, they would always make one marquee signing. And right now, nothing so far.
Yeah, it's all very quiet. You're bringing in the left back from Olympiacos, providing cover, obviously, because it's a position that Milner's had to fill throughout last season. I mean, I wouldn't accuse Klopp and Liverpool of being overconfident. What I would say is he believes in the depth of his squad and feels that he's only going to add the right player. Now, would the kind of merry-go-round begin if Wijnaldum ends up going to Barcelona? Is that the starting point? Because then all of a sudden he does have to strengthen. And the question mark for me is more up front. I felt last time Firmino, everyone says he makes great contributions, but he's not that out-and-out goal scorer. And if you get the likes of Salah, who are just off the boil, or if Mane is not on form, or even them picks up an injury, is Divock Origi the way forward? I'm not sure. I mean, the other thing they're looking at is Ryan Brewster, obviously a youngster, but they're looking to potentially move him out on a permanent deal this time, rather than a loan deal of around 20 million is the figure that's being quoted, with a buyback option. So you just have to sit back and look at Liverpool and just go, what is the strategy? What is the plan? Does Klopp really have that much faith in what he's got? Obviously, Lovren's departed the club. Lallana's gone as well. So ranks have been diminished, but he's only going to buy top quality. When you've won that first league title after all those years, you've got to be looking at players that are going to better what you've got. And he's probably thinking, actually, look, I've got the likes of Keita in that midfield. I've got Henderson. What's going to be better, or what's going to put the pressure on them? I think he's expecting a big season from Minamino this time round. I think he's thinking that he's had his time to settle into the club. Now it's time to deliver, and he started showing some of that in pre-season. But if I was a Liverpool fan, I'd be a little bit concerned. Is it a case of we won the title now, we don't need to worry anymore? I would have thought, it's like you say, it's about building that dynasty, isn't it? It's the building blocks onto the future. And at the moment, there's very few rumours. There's very few deals to be done, it would appear.
Yeah, Man City obviously finished second behind Liverpool. A long way behind Liverpool, to be perfectly honest. They've got to improve. Obviously, the Champions League was a disappointment for them as well. Pep Guardiola's gone out and bought Nathan Ake, of course, to strengthen the defence, which I think most people would say will be a thing they need to do. I think the boy Ferran Torres from Valencia is a great signing. Most Spanish people that I talk to over here think he's going to be a great player. He's a youngster, but he's got a great future. They've taken Scott Carson on loan. I don't quite know why, but that's obviously of cover, of course. But there you go.
Yeah, is Ake enough to make up the difference of where Man City were missing last time round? Obviously, David Silva's departed as well. Mm-hmm. So there are holes in the team. I mean, we'll come on to our predictions later, and I won't lie. I think they're going to win the title. But I think that's going to be more out of Guardiola's desire to put things right, his ability to drill that squad. They've still got, obviously, the players' player of the season in Kevin De Bruyne, who will provide that quality. But, Aguero is going to need replacing, and he's going to need replacing soon. I agree with you about Torres. I'm a bit worried about Valencia, but that's a different story and a different video in terms of what they've got left at the end of the season, having sold Rodrigo as well to Leeds. Yeah. But yeah, Ake will be a big addition. I mean, he's been quality at Bournemouth. He was quality always at Chelsea. I think he's matured now. He's got that Premier League experience. He'll provide that little bit of steel to the heart of that Man City defence, which for me is all that was lacking last season, really. And again, did they pin all their hopes on getting the Messi deal done? Well, if they did, that's foolish in a business sense, because it was always a long shot, but it was a long shot that had it come off, I think we'd be saying all bets are off right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's go across the city to United then. Donnie Van Der Beek, as he's known, not Beek, as we thought it might be said, but Beek. You should know that, obviously, from your commentary. I'm sure you've looked at that. Have I pronounced that right?
You have, yeah.
Okay. Good signing, 40 million. I think that's good value.
He's a really good signing. I mean, if you think the business they did with Fernandes in the January window was big business for them and a super piece of business in that respect, he will make a huge difference and certainly contribute something. They've obviously kept Agallo for a little longer because again, we're looking at a club that maybe has put all its eggs in one basket or potentially is looking at a couple of options. So option one, of course, being Sancho, which, you know, if rumours are to be believed today, there has been a breakthrough in the last 24 hours, despite all the talk from Dortmund of he's not going to be sold, he's not going anywhere. The talks between Manchester United and the player's agent and the discussions around those kind of fees look to have advanced. Now, if they have advanced to an extent where suddenly a deal might become possible, I think Manchester United, bearing in mind where they finished last season, where Chelsea finished, and the gap between themselves and Liverpool and Manchester City, it wouldn't surprise me if they were prepared to spend that 110, 115 million to buy Jadon Sancho, because I think it's expected that Manchester United can not only ride out this global pandemic financially, but also that is what they need to do if they want to compete with those top two. And also because Chelsea is saying to them, hello, 250 mil, thanks very much. What are you going to do about it? And I think that will be key for them. I still think they've got the backdoor option, and that is potentially bringing in Jack Grealish from Aston Villa, because Villa have done well so far in the transfer window. They've still got their prize asset, though. They've still got their captain, which is a surprise to everyone, but I think it may be only because he's Manchester United's backup plan.
Okay, I don't know if you're watching All or Nothing, the Tottenham documentary, have you?
Who isn't?
Well, unfortunately, I am. Yes, you know, as an Arsenal fan, as you know, I have watched it. I mean, you know, so I love these type of programs. You know, I thought, I enjoyed the City one, and probably the Sunderland one was the best, of course, of all the you know, the ones that they've done so far. But yeah, it's interesting. You know, and Mourinho looks like he's sort of got his mojo back a little bit. I don't know if he's playing up to the cameras like Jose does, as we know, but. Are they making the right signings in order to step up again? I don't know, because they've had a couple of, you know, big sort of, you know, Vertonghen, I think, is a big loss, although he wasn't getting in at the end of last year. But, you know, what do you think?
I think, you know, Højbjerg is his, not marquee signing, but it's the one that he really wanted, because he was looking, he always plays and wants to play with that holding midfielder. And I think he believes Højbjerg from Southampton is that player to fill that hole. The worry for me, as ever, as it always is when it comes to Spurs, is what happens if Harry Kane's injured. You know, what's the plan? Is Son going to carry the team? Well, he's carried them in part of pre-season, of course. But that's the big issue for me, is up front. I'm a Mourinho fan, always have been. I love the documentary because you just see him in his rawest form. He does look like he's got a bit of his mojo back. There's a lot of talk about the fact he's got his mojo back. But I think this is his biggest challenge, because, you know, he's not had the blank checkbook that he's used to having when he comes into clubs. That performance after he took over last season, if you look at the form tables, you know, they were in the top four overall throughout that period. So he delivered an improvement. There was no two ways about it. Have they got what it takes to get into that top four again and to break that stranglehold that's there now, based on the purchases he's made so far? And there's been a lot of talk about him going for the likes of Josh King, who, again, as a backup striker for Harry Kane, might be quite a good option, but it's just not the sort of signing you expect to see at Spurs. He put a lot of faith at the end of last season in Lucas Moura, so we may well see a little bit more of that. He's already sent Parrott out on loan to Millwall, so he's clearly saying, well, actually, you don't figure in my plan, particularly about us scoring goals. So it's more for me, Mourinho. Can he mould what he's got into the team that can deliver for him and perform in the manner that he's used to?
Now, the FA Cup winners and Charity Shield holders right now.
That's not a trophy.
Well, it's not a trophy if you don't win it, of course. If you win it, of course, it's a trophy, you know. But my team, the Arsenal, I think they've done quite a good business so far. I'm still a bit worried whether Aubameyang's actually going to sign his contract, to be perfectly honest. But I think that's key for us going forward. But all the other business, I quite like.
Isn't that? But that's the worry, isn't it? And it's the same with, you know, you look at Villa and say, well, they've done really good business, and Ollie Watkins coming in is great. But if Grealish goes, well, who's providing the ammunition for Ollie Watkins up front? in the same way that you look at Arsenal and go, well, it's lovely what they've done, and they've strengthened at the back, and bringing Willian is really nice. I mean, yes, he's in probably the latter years of his career, but actually the vision that was sold to him by Arteta is clearly a good one, and he buys into it. Finally, keeping a bit of faith in Maitland-Niles. I know Maitland-Niles wants to play in midfield. That's why he was never really an option for Wolves, because people were thinking, oh, he's going to replace Doherty at Wolves. It was never going to happen because he wants to play in midfield. So if he's given that opportunity at Arsenal, fair enough. But all of that comes down to, what is the delay? Why is Aubameyang not put pen to paper? What is the problem? They're committing, willing to commit the kind of cash they're talking at the same time as making staff members redundant. What is the delay in stopping that man signing that contract? What's the missing piece of that jigsaw? Or do they need Mesut Ozil off the books before they can sign up to paying Aubameyang that kind of money?
Well, who knows? I think, look, most Arsenal fans will tell you, get his signature done, and if you've got Ozil or you haven't got Ozil, you deal with the Ozil problem afterwards. I think, I like what Arteta's done to the team. He's obviously changed it dramatically from what it was like before under Emery. And let's see. I mean, he's still, in actual fact, he's still got a year left on his contract. Don't forget Aubameyang. And then, who knows? It might go on and on. I just don't know whether they're leaving it right to the last minute. Maybe they'll announce it in the next couple of days, and we'll all breathe a huge sigh of relief, or what. But
I agree what you say about the way they play. I mean, the difference now in the steel and the desire and the passion and actually just the common sense in that Arsenal side, I think is quite extraordinary. The fact he's managed to instill that in such a short space of time is very special. And of course, you had the bonus news today that David Louise is going to miss the start of the season because he's picked up an injury. I mean, what more could you want? That's double celebration.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, he's actually played quite well in the big games since the lockdown. You look at Man City in the FA Cup semi-final. You look at Liverpool. We played them and beat them at home. We've obviously beaten Chelsea in the FA Cup final, and we beat Liverpool in the Charity. Luis didn't make any mistakes in those games, which is very unusual. We know, I'm not quite sure how he's going to play. Is he going to play back three centre halves, and Tierney and possibly Maitland-Niles wide right, Tierney left? Or is he going to play back four? It's all up in the air right now. Nobody really seems to know. But, I don't know whether he'll throw in Gabriel and Saliba together at the beginning, just because of the lack of experience there. I think that's why he wanted to keep hold of Louise. But it's interesting he's kept hold of Holding now. He's not taking, Holding's not going to Newcastle on loan. I think he's kept hold of him. And I think obviously the injury to Louise is one of the reasons. But they still need to offload. We forget how many centre-halves they've got still. There's still Chambers there. There's still Socrates is still there. Mustafi's still there, of course. We've got about 8 centre-halves, I think.
I think Tierney, for me, will be the player that stands out for you this season. I mean, he's an exceptional purchase. He was always high quality in Scotland. He always delivers when he appears for his national team as well. And I think it's one of those moments actually where you doff your cap to Arsenal and say, doing a terrific piece of business like that before any of the other members of the top 6 and around there were sniffing around. It was a terrific piece of business, and he really came to the fore at the end of last season. And I expect to see more great things from him throughout this campaign. He could well be your star man this season.
So we've pretty much covered the top 6 there, Adam. Anyone else we should really look out for? Obviously, Sheffield United had a great season. Wolves had a good season. Leicester had a great season. Is there anyone else amongst them that we should look out for with the summer signings?
Well, yeah, you haven't talked about Everton.
Oh, Everton, of course. Sorry, yes.
And how can we not look at some the signings that Ancelotti's made? And again, I mean, it's what happens when you get a good manager with great pedigree, great connections, real quality going into your football club, that you can start attracting the kind of players that Everton have started picking up. I mean, who would have thought that James Rodriguez would have ended up on we actually probably thought he would have ended up on Merseyside, but maybe not in the blue of Everton. That's the astounding thing out of it all. I mean, they've made some terrific acquisitions. Where can they get to? Can they pierce that top 6? And this is the challenge for all of them. It was the challenge for Leicester at the start of last season. Can they make that top 6? Can they bridge that gap? And can Brendan fire them on with the squad that he's got? I mean, I worry about them losing Chilwell. Castagne's come in, but what else is going to happen at Leicester? Any more purchases on the horizon? Wolves, again, they've broken their transfer record in buying Silva. He's scored 1 goal. He's not that proven player, but that's what Wolves do. They take people from Portugal. We know why. We take them from Portuguese football, and they turn them in to real high quality. The selling of Doherty, I think, was an interesting yardstick, because it was Nuno saying, I'm not accepting what I've got. Actually, he may have been brilliant for us, but if I'm going to evolve this team, that's a change that I need to make. And therefore, he's obviously gone and made it. So where can Wolves get to, though? They've spent all that money. They've broken their transfer record. What's the ceiling? Can they get into that top 6? Well, if you've got City looking as solid as ever, you've got Liverpool, although not signing, looking well. You've got Chelsea spending all that money. You've got United improving. You've got Mourinho at the helm. You've got Arsenal looking better. You know, who's making way out of that top 6 to allow an Everton, or Wolves, or a Leicester to come in? If anyone's going to come in, for me, it's going to be Everton. And that's going to be because of the quality that he's brought into the football club, but also because Ancelotti is a terrific football manager.
We'll talk about the teams that got promoted, I think, probably more when we talk about our top 6 and bottom 3, maybe. I don't know. But we can also mention them, obviously, when we start talking about the fixtures that are coming up this weekend. Let's begin Saturday's early kickoff, 12:30 UK. Over here, for me, it's 1:30 in Spain. It's promoted Fulham, of course, against my team, the Arsenal. They've done well under Scotty Parker, actually. I like Scotty Parker. Listen, I actually saw Scott Parker play for Charlton against Arsenal. Well, I think it was his debut, but he only played 1 or 2 games, and he was an outstanding player, and he proved to be an outstanding player all the way through his career. I think he's taken that into management, and he's done well.
Nothing like giving your age away in one fast swoop there.
Well, there you go.
he's brilliant. I mean, obviously the West Ham connection here, I have an empathy and a love for him because of the leader that he was at Upton Park. I was at the Hawthorns actually when Fulham played there during lockdown, one of the final games of the season, and I did get to talk to him afterwards, at a distance, obviously, and I was reminding him about when he was there with West Ham, and we were 3-0 down at half time, and it was in the Avram Grant days, and he was captain then, and basically he told Avram Grant to sit down and shut up and deliver the team talk at half time, and we walked away with a point 3-3. And that's what he showed when he was club captain. And you can see he's got that mentality. I mean, the way he dismantled Brentford in the final, his quick thinking with that free kick. I mean, they've not had a lot of time to prepare, but actually he's the type of coach that you saw what those players thought of him after that game. And in the semi-final as well, when they qualified, you saw the faith and the belief they have in him as a coach. And mark my words, he will one day be England's head coach, because I think he's that good. He reads the game brilliantly. He's very well respected because of what he did as a player. And, you know, a home game for your first one, the one thing he's got on his side, I mean, he brought in Harrison Reed, and he's brought in Lamina from Southampton. He had Harrison Reed there last season, who was exceptional in the heart of that midfield in the Championship. The one thing he's got is a goal scorer. And, you know, Mitrovic is an outstanding goal scorer at any level of football, and that will always give him a chance. That said, it's a tough opening fixture, a London derby at home, but because it's the first day of the season, I reckon they'll come away with a point.
Adam, come on, Adam. Come on. There you go. Listen, it's going to be a win for the Arsenal, we know. I see us probably winning 2-0, to be honest. We shall see.
Okay. You're very confident.
Yeah, I am actually. I'm more confident than I've ever been. And, you know, you're an Arsenal fan. You don't normally start the season that confident, but I do. Now, we know that Burnley against Manchester United has been postponed because United and City, of course, were in the late stages of Europe. So those games are actually postponed. So we've got Crystal Palace against Southampton, 2 teams that we haven't really talked about so far. Southampton under obviously Crystal Palace under Roy Hodgson. Southampton, a great improvement since they got absolute gubbing from Leicester at home. You know, Hassan Hootel, I don't know how you pronounce that properly, but he has done a great job there.
Wretched run at the end of the season for Palace. I mean, until that final day where they picked up a point. Prior to that, it was Hodgson's worst run as a Premier League manager. Not only that, they were playing awful football. I saw them at Wolves. I saw them at Aston Villa in their last few games. Dreadful. But he's gone out, and in essence, he's kind of transformed the team. You know, he's got that young buccaneering fullback in Ferguson that he's picked up from West Brom free of charge. I'm a massive fan of Eze from Queen's Park Rangers. He was outstanding last season. I really wanted to see him at the London Stadium. But it's a terrific purchase. Looks like Batshuayi is going back there on loan, because that's their big problem, Crystal Palace. It's scoring goals.
Yeah.
You know, Ayew was the highest scorer last season with 9. Benteke, poor again, lost his rag against Villa and got suspended for the rest of the season. You know, they need goals from somewhere. They need to tighten up at the back, and they need some goals. Batshuayi could deliver those goals. Ferguson will do well for them. As for Southampton, very quiet. Very, very quiet. I think he was happy with the turnaround he made towards the end of last season, and therefore he's not tinkered with that squad too much. You know, he knows he's always got goals in Danny Ings. I think what we saw from Che Adams again at the end of the last season was a really encouraging sign that he's going to press on this campaign. So again, I don't think there's any rush from Hasenhüttl to do too much at Southampton. I'm going to go for a draw because it'll be a cagey affair on that opening day of the season. But I think it's really important for Palace to get back to winning ways.
I pretty much agree with the draw. I mean, I think by the 0-0 or 1-1, pretty even Stevens, the teams, aren't they? Let's see. I mean, you know, two teams I think will probably be mid-table for me next season. So we'll keep our eyes out on those. Man City Villa, we know that's been called off. Listen, now, what about this? 5:30 kickoff in the UK, 6:30 our time. Liverpool against Leeds. I mean, this evokes great memories of the sort of late 70s games of Liverpool and Leeds. You know, I remember a Charity Shield game Liverpool played against Leeds, and Kevin Keegan and Billy Bremner fighting, having a proper fight, got sent off, the two of them. These two teams have got a great rivalry. What a start for Leeds. I mean, it's a real shame that their supporters can't go to this game at Anfield, because it would be an absolutely humdinger of an atmosphere if those two were together.
Anyone that tells you that the fixture list is done by a computer is lying, because there is absolutely no doubt that fixture was penciled in as, okay, what's the best way to welcome Leeds back into the Premier League? Well, of course, the champions of England against the champions of the Championship. And it is an outstanding fixture. And not only that, but I think we'll get to see here just how good Bielsa actually is as a coach. Because, you know, Guardiola and co rate him incredibly highly. Now he's got the opportunity, having done something that Leeds have been desperate for someone to do for so long. He's now got that chance to go head to head with the best, face to face with Klopp, face to face with Guardiola. Yes, he doesn't have their resources, but, you know, the signing of Rodrigo was a big one for me. They knew last season that Bamford was, you know, not a fantastic striker. It's interesting, the two teams that came top in the Championship last season, you know, we got Bamford and Charlie Austin just about scraping into double figures for goals. They didn't need that big out-and-out goal scorer. I think and the difference between West Brom and Leeds, when we come on to our predictions later for relegation, I think, is probably that Leeds have gone, if we're going to survive in that division, we need a striker that's going to trouble defences, that's going to cause them problems, that's a good finisher, that's got plenty of pace. And they found it in Rodrigo. They've also got the rest of the quality that sits around that from some of the players they picked up last season. Taking Harrison from Man City on loan for the campaign. It's going to be a great learning curve for him, but actually he could really suit the Premier League. So I think they'll give Liverpool a tough time. It's really hard to argue with Liverpool's home form, because it's outstanding. You know, they don't get beaten at Anfield, and they'll probably win the game. But I'm really looking forward to seeing the matchup between two fantastic coaches.
Yeah, I totally agree. And listen, I saw Leeds outplay Arsenal in the FA Cup third round, first half.
Was that before the war or after?
That was before. That was before. And they were outstanding. They played us off the park. They should have been 2 or 3 up, to be perfectly honest. You know, and then just don't forget, we obviously went on to win the FA Cup. I don't know if I've mentioned that already, but
I think you did, yeah.
Yeah. As I say, I'm really looking forward to Leeds. To be honest with you, I wouldn't back against Liverpool not winning that game. You know, I'll probably go 2-0 to Liverpool if I'm honest, or 2-1 maybe. Leeds might get a goal, but let's see. It'll be a good game. You're right. I think I'm really looking forward to that. So your boys, West Ham, are the late kickoff, 8 o'clock. Up against, it's got head in hands already. Look, up against Newcastle, once again, we haven't mentioned Newcastle, but I think they've done some really good business in the window.
Yeah, we should have had them in our list, really.
Yeah, I agree.
They've done good business. Yeah. Look, I'm a massive fan of Steve Bruce. I never understood the negativity from Newcastle supporters about his appointment, about him joining the club. You know, he's done everything that Rafa Benitez never really did. You know, he's attracted good quality players. He kept them up by a comfortable margin in the end last season. Yes, it wasn't pretty, but with what he was given to work with, it was never going to be pretty. But what Steve Bruce does is he organises football clubs. And there's no question about players that want to play for him. Sam Maxim was outstanding. Yes, he may not have assisted that many goals or scored that many goals, but the influence he had on the team with that pace, I mean, he tore West Ham apart at the London Stadium. There was no doubt about it. And when you think you've added the likes of Fraser with his kind of quality, who's going to be delivering to Callum Wilson, who, you know, you could look at his form at Bournemouth last season and say, well, he's not quite there anymore, is he? I'd probably argue that Bournemouth weren't quite there, and that was part of the problem. It was all just a little bit too comfortable down at Bournemouth, and this will be a fascinating challenge for Wilson. I mean, they picked up Hendricks on free from Burnley, so they're weakening Burnley and adding some quality to their team. You know, Republic of Ireland international, and that coupled with Jamal Lewis for 15 million quid as a fullback, who was one of the outstanding players for Norwich. It's great business from Newcastle. And then you get to West Ham.
Come on then.
Look, one of the issues for me first is clubs deteriorate over time. They don't just deteriorate in a season, they deteriorate over 2 or 3 seasons. And then, although time and time again they just about survive, then eventually they fall. And it always happens. We can look at Sunderland, we can look at Villa, we look at Bournemouth last season, where year after year you looked at their results, they progressively got worse and then they dropped. But the supporters think, oh, we've survived before, we'll survive again. Make no mistake, the way things are going, West Ham will get relegated next season, regardless of David Moyes' organisation and his planning and all the rest of it. Everyone around them, apart from Burnley, have strengthened. You know, Aston Villa are signing Ollie Watkins for £30 million. They bought Matty Cash, a fullback, for £16 million. That apparently in January, David Moyes wanted to sign for West Ham. Now all of a sudden he doesn't rate him. More like, I can't afford £16 million for a fullback, I think is more of an accurate way of describing it. So my worry there, and when you've got your captain, you know, your England international, players like Jack Wilshere coming out publicly and basically saying the manager stroke the board, whoever made that decision to sell Grady Diangana, have made a mistake. Wilshere saying, go to a club that respects you. I mean, these are members of the playing staff that are having their salary paid, and yet they don't care about openly criticising the owners of the football club. To me, that's a sorry state of affairs. And you can sit there and say there's 8 wingers that play in Grady Diangana's position, but they're not very good. And yet he was an exceptional talent. The last game of the season, when they got promoted, I was there covering the game for TalkSport, and he created the second goal, but he created it out of nothing. He had 2 defenders around him, and you thought, well, he's going nowhere here. The next minute, he's beyond them both, and he's delivering the ball in for Callum Robinson to score. He was an exceptional talent. If West Ham's going to become the kind of club that takes a kid that they've had with them since young and sells them before they've even made a handful of first-team experiences, when they are good enough, then I think the whole fabric of the club falls apart. And based on the infighting, based on the fact that David Moyes hasn't got any of the players that he wanted, there's no improvement at fullback, there's no improvement at centre-half, and there's no striker who's been purchased to support Allaire. I just don't see where the club's going right now. And the last time we bought a fullback, paid money for a fullback, was Masuaku 5 years ago. And we paid £5 million. Zabaleta was free. Fredericks was free. And then prior to that, it was Cresswell. And we're talking a long time ago for Aaron Cresswell. That's the root of the problem at that football club. And the fans are angry because we were promised a lot more when we left Upton Park. And so far, they haven't delivered. So we're going to lose.
Listen, I've heard it said, you know, it's sometimes quite easy to discuss owners and criticise owners and everything else. And I know they promised the world, but you know, when you moved and you become a top 6 club and everything else, but I have it on good authority, there wouldn't be one chairman in the land that wouldn't have taken that deal to move to that stadium, the deal that they were offered, you know. So I just probably think that at the time they shouldn't have maybe promised what they promised, you know, because, you know, it's tough for a team to move stadiums. You know, Arsenal moved obviously from Highbury. We literally moved a quarter of a mile around the corner. It wasn't that far. Spurs obviously built their stadium on their old stadium. You guys have had to move a lot further than anybody else. But you know, as I say, there was probably not one chairman out there that wouldn't have taken that deal.
It was a fantastic deal. And, you know, I would sit here now and say to you, although my heart will always be in Upton Park, at the time I said, let's do it. But I said that on the vision that was being sold to us. Mm-hmm. And the vision of, well, actually, we're going to get 60,000 fans in. We're going to be able to achieve this. We're going to aim for Europe. We're going to spend this money on the players. We're only paying this much rent. The rest of the income becomes ours anyway. And people will say, well, you know, we're in a pandemic. We've had no fans through the door. Correct. But we're still getting the oodles of TV revenue. And people will talk about, well, we paid all that money for Allaire. As we've seen in the last few weeks, we didn't actually pay that money up front because we've had to rearrange the instalments that we need to pay him because there is no money. And that's the crux of it. So we've ended up selling one of our promising players who 3 days before he was sold, played in a friendly, set 2 goals up for Sébastien Allaire. And the club itself was messaging on Instagram saying, can't wait to see these two together in the league. And 3 days later, the kid sold. And I knew when I talked to Slaven after the game, after they got promoted, he said to me, I said, then what's the chances of having him back next season? And he said, no chance. He'll be a Premier League star. And I think that's where the fans just feel a little bit betrayed by it all, if I'm honest. And, you know, I think we will lose to Newcastle. They're a bit of a bogey team for us anyway. And because of the way Newcastle have strengthened. And that's what worries me. And that's why later on I'll have West Ham in my bottom 3 on the basis that everyone else around them has strengthened and West Ham are in decline. And unless there's some big signings made in the next 3 weeks, it's going to be the trapdoor for them, I'm afraid.
He's a not happy West Ham fan, is he? Let's face it. All right, let's move on quickly then to West Brom against Leicester. These are the Sunday games. There's 2 games on Sunday. West Brom against Leicester is a 2 o'clock UK time kickoff. West Brom obviously just got promoted. Just you talked about the boy they've just got from West Ham. Leicester, you know, didn't kick on after the lockdown. They're probably one of the out of form teams in after the lockdown, really, to be perfectly honest, you know, and relying very much on the goals of Jamie Vardy. Can he do that again? You know, become the top goal scorer? He's another year older. So, what do you reckon?
I think they've got their eyes on Tarkowski actually, which I think would make a really big difference if they added him at centre half. I know that he's fairly open to the move. I'm not sure what's going on at Burnley. There's a few decent players being sold there and not too much being brought in to replace it. So I think that would help Leicester tremendously. I mean, they should have too much for West Brom, but West Brom are a bit of an unknown quantity in this circumstance because they had some exceptional championship players last season. Pereira, I mean, he was one shy of Matt Ritchie's all-time record for assists in the championship come the end of the season. He's got tremendous feet. And the general feeling from anyone you talk to, any ex-pro or from us commentators who watch, is that he can cut it in the Premier League. So it'll be interesting to see if he can cut it. If you're putting him alongside the likes of Dean Garner, you know, Livermore's been there and done it in the Premier League before. You know, he'll be around that midfield. Romain Sawyers will get his opportunity, who was one of their outstanding players last season. I mean, defensively, they can be a little bit fragile. I'm not convinced by the keeper, Johnston, who obviously they got from Manchester United. He'd been at Villa Prior as well. I thought he was quite shaky last season. Whenever he was called on, he very rarely delivered. So they're a bit of an unknown quantity. I mean, picking up Callum Robinson today, that's not good business for me. He struggled at times in the Championship, so I'm not sure what he'll add in the Premier League. They've still got quality, Leicester. It's just how Brendan Rodgers has dragged them round from that poor end of season. And I think, you know, the poor end of season came off the back of so much hope. You know, at one point, people were thinking they were going to be the closest challengers to Liverpool. They were going that well. So I expect a Leicester win on Sunday, if I'm honest. But I'm more intrigued to see how those Championship players develop for West Bromwich Albion. And I'm also intrigued because I love Slav. I always will. And funny enough, the first game I did back doing commentary at the end of last season, he come up and he shook my hand. I'm like, you're not allowed to do that. That's COVID protocol. He's like, I don't care. I just wanted to. I've got a lot of time for Slav. I really have.
Yeah, I agree. Leicester for me, if I was going to pick anybody, I would pick Leicester in that game. I think this is a great game, an interesting game on Sunday. The 4:30 kickoff is Tottenham against Everton.
You just don't want that if you're Mourinho, do you? For your first game back.
No,
I mean, they got beat by Watford in pre-season last season. Yes, it's pre-season last week. Yes, it's pre-season, but he likes momentum. There's no two ways about it. and coming up against the new signings from Everton at home, he's probably going to be quite grateful there's no supporters in, because actually, if it does start to go a little bit wrong, it could get nasty. But in terms of two great coaches, I mean, seeing those two match up will be excellent. I mean, the question really is about the Everton signing. You know, how fit are they? Are they ready to come straight back in? You know, Rodriguez, when did he last pull on a first team shirt? You know, is he going to be in the kind of shape? I was at a game at the weekend with Chris Iwelumo, and I said, look, surely the teams and the players from division, because we were watching Derby against Barrow in the Carabao Cup. Surely, you know, for the Derby players, for example, they only finished last season 6 weeks ago, so they must be in a better shape physically. And he was saying, as a pro, actually, it's after 3 weeks your body shuts down. So if they've had 3 weeks off, you are almost like a starting point all over again. So it'll be interesting to see how the new signings, how fit they are, how ready they are to fit into it. And also with Everton, what sort of systems are he going to play? You know, what is the plan that Ancelotti's got? You know, he toyed with a 3 last time. Digne was superb. Keane almost looked like he'd kind of reinvented himself as the season went on. It was further forward. You know, where does Rodriguez fit in alongside Calvert-Lewin? Where does he fit in alongside Richarlison as well as a unit going forward? How is that going to look? So I think there's a lot of questions to be answered. And knowing Mourinho and knowing Ancelotti, it'll be a cagey draw.
Okay, well, I can't back Tottenham, as you know. But so
don't you listen? You have to throw that out the window when we're doing this. You can't say that.
But yeah, as an Arsenal fan, I can't back Tottenham. I will back a draw, though. I would back a draw. I think both teams are pretty well matched up together. I think I'll go for the draw. So we move into Monday. There's 2 kickoffs on Monday. 6 o'clock kickoff, quite early kickoff, is Sheffield United, who we've not talked about at all. We probably should do, because obviously with the fantastic season they had last year under Chris Wilder. And Wolves, who once again after the lockdown didn't really, keep up the form they were doing before. What do we reckon here?
Well, I think, there's mitigating circumstances with Wolves, I think. The fact that point they've been playing football for almost a year. True. Yes, they had the little lockdown off, but the number of games they played, and he doesn't have a huge squad, and he wasn't a great swapper. So, he relied an awful lot on the likes of Jimenez, who ran his socks off every single game. I mean, if you want to talk about an outstanding Premier League striker, I mean, there's your boy, because he literally does everything. Connor Cody as well. I mean, I'm so chuffed with him making.
Had a good game last night, I thought.
He did, but you think he's played every single minute of every Premier League game since they came back into the division, and he plays in all the cup games. He's the linchpin of that team. So I'm not going to read too much into the end of last season. I think they've made some decent signings. Podence just started to show his ability, who they picked up from Olympiacos in the January transfer window. He just started to have an impact on the team. And I think when you've got the likes of Moutinho and Neves running that midfield, I mean, they're always going to be an attractive, decent outfit. I thought towards the end of the season, they were winning games, but they weren't playing well. They weren't playing in their usual manner. But then every now and then a few flashes of brilliance were getting them over the line. Sheffield United, I mean, a dogged side. Second season syndrome we all know about. I don't think anyone will be as bullish about Sheffield United this time round. However, I don't think they'll suffer a second season syndrome, because I think Chris Wilde is too good. Really, he's too good for Sheffield United. And he's looked to strengthen by bringing in the 2 wing backs from Derby, which will make a difference. He's picked up Oliver Burke today. They've spent a little bit of money. Question mark is always going to be, where are the goals coming from? McGoldrick finally got off the mark. Maybe that'll open the floodgates for him. Billy Sharp, does he still have what it takes to deliver consistently? And Mousset's a good player, but I think he needs to deliver more for Chris Wilder. So I'm intrigued to see how they go. I think a few people towards the end of the season, after the lockdown break, certainly had sussed out how to play against them. So will he reinvent himself, or are we going to see just Sheffield United 2.0 for their second season in the Premier League? I think Wolves will win, but it'll be a hard-fought win.
Okay, I'm going draw, actually, for me. Draw first game for those two. And then finally, the last game, an 8:15 kickoff on Monday evening. We've got Brighton and Hove Albion against Chelsea. Brighton, another team that we've not mentioned yet. Where are we seeing this?
Graham Potter did well towards the end of last season, steering them away from trouble, because I had them down, to be fair. But we know, again, you're looking at a very good manager. Cutting his teeth in the Premier League for the first time, and he did exceptionally well. Lallana's an interesting pickup. If they can keep him fit, I think he'll certainly have an influence on the heart of that midfield. I think we saw Malpoy was an excellent signing. Again, growing into life in the Premier League, having been a Championship player before that. So they're a solid team and they're really hard to play against at home. However, I mean, you've got to look at this Chelsea side. Well, when the players are out of quarantine, those that have been tested positive and all the rest of it, how they fit together. I'm hearing that Iverts is already making a grand impression. The likes of Chilwell, if he's fit, obviously we know that he can deliver in the Premier League. Ziyech, again, there's an injury doubt over him, but you're looking at second season from Pulisic as well, aren't you? I mean, there are so many options. Werner's hit the ground running. Chelsea have to make a statement on Monday night, and they have to win that game, and I think they will.
Yeah, I agree. So, Adam, we're nearly at the end of the first episode of this Premier League countdown, and we need to do our top 6 and our bottom 3. Who we think is going to let's do our bottom 3. I think first. Let's who is in your bottom 3 to go down?
You're going to feel it's harsh because I talked him up earlier, but I think Fulham will go down. I think Mitrovic will give them a fighting chance, but I think ultimately, the quality won't be there to keep them up in the Premier League. So Fulham's one of my teams, but it won't go against Scott Parker. He'll still be the manager when they go down, and then he'll probably be the same manager that brings them back up again. I always think it's harsh as well when you come via the playoffs, particularly this season, because you've got even less time to kind of really organise yourselves. Same applies to West Brom. I think Slav's an excellent manager. I think he's a great coach. He's a great motivator. I think the boys would throw themselves down on the floor for him. There's no two ways about that. But will he have the quality overall, in the fullback areas, at centre half, the goalkeeper? I think there's just too many question marks to confidently say that West Brom will have the power to stay up and the wherewithal to stay up. And also, it's not a club who, Dean Garner, is a record signing at £18 million. For a team that's been in the Premier League as many times as they have, I think that says a lot about their spending. And again, they're relying on Charlie Austin, Callum Robinson, and Hal Robson-Kanu to score the goals. They didn't do it in the Championship. I'm not sure they'll do it in the Premier League. And then my other one in the bottom 3 is West Ham. For all those reasons I moaned on about for 20 minutes ago earlier.
Well, you and I have not spoken about this before. We said that we needed to pick our top 3 and top 6 as part of this. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, I have picked exactly the same 3. I have.
Well, that's all right. That's good news because I know what a terrible tipster you are, so I'm laughing. We're staying up.
Well, it was. I'll be honest with you. It was a choice of the claret and blue for the 3rd one for me. I was toying between Aston Villa and West Ham, but I think the boy they've just signed from Brentford for Villa will be a good signing for them.
An exceptional striker. Exceptional striker.
I think that'll be a big help.
Ability.
Yeah, big help. And there's talk that they might sign Martinez from Arsenal, the goalkeeper. If they get him, then I think that'll be a great signing as well.
But why would you not want to keep him? He was exceptional at the end of last
season. I would. But Arsenal fans forget how good Leno was at the beginning of the season as well. He was outstanding in the derby against Tottenham. Had an absolutely unbelievable game. The only thing I doubt with Leno is his size, actually. I'm really surprised how actually small he is. There was a picture of all the Arsenal goalkeepers together when they won the FA Cup, and he's the smallest goalkeeper. Most goalkeepers now are, the size of Courtois or De Gea. Martin is he's a big character. He's been at the club 10 years. He wants to play first team football. He doesn't want to be the guy that comes in to play in the FA Cup and the Europa League and stuff like that. I agree. I just think it's a real conundrum. And I think Arteta has put his sort of cards out and said that Leno is his number 1. And if that is the case, then I think Martinez will want to move. But he'll want to play first team. He won't want to go as a second. So, and that could be
the claret and blue I would potentially add into the bottom 3 as another option would be Burnley.
Yeah, with all the
and I think that's,
I agree.
Yeah, we touched on what they've lost, who's left, who still could potentially go. And also that discord at the end of last season between the chairman and Sean Dyche.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me always says a lot. And, he's a great coach. And I would have got rid of Moyes and had him in the summer, frankly, would have been my option. So Burnley are the other one that potentially for me could find themselves in danger.
So claret and blue is not the colour you want to be in next year, basically, is it really?
It's not, no. Far from it.
Okay, so we'll go 6 up to 1. Okay, who is in 6th place in your league?
Everton.
Okay, 6th place in my league is Wolves.
Okay.
Who's in 5th?
Spurs.
See, once again, I can't put him in the top 6, can I? It's just, my Arsenal friends will just kill me if I did. So, unfortunately, I put Spurs 7th.
Well, in that case, where are Arsenal?
Arsenal ways. No, come on. Hang on. 5th, I'm going Manchester United, 5th.
Okay.
I'm not so sure. I'm still think the jury's out on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I'm not sure if he is the man. Ole's driving the bus, as Rio always says, but I'm still not sure. Listen, I think the signings are fantastic. I think Fernandes, as you said earlier, and Van Der Beek, he's a great signing too, but still not sure. Still not sure.
I think however the question marks may hang over him, I think the quality he's got, for me, will deliver them 4th, which is where I put them.
You've got them 4th.
Yeah.
This is where I've got Arsenal, actually.
Yeah, but you've got those spectacles on that are slightly tinted. Yeah, I've got Arsenal 7th. I've got you missing out again.
Oh, come on.
Sorry.
Listen, this is the FA Cup winners, Charity Shield winners. We're moving forward, Adam. Come on.
Now you are showing your age. It's the Community Shield nowadays.
Oh, Charity Shield. Yeah, sorry. yeah.
Okay, so
3rd. 4th. I've got. Sorry, I've got. Hang on a minute. Where am I doing?
You've got 3rd, Arsenal 4th.
Arsenal 4th. 3rd. I have got. I'm going to go first this time. Chelsea.
Yeah, for me too. I think. But the question there, that's no better than last season.
True.
So the question I would ask is, all that money, no improvement in league position? What's the pressure on Lampard going to be?
Well, listen, the Chelsea managers have won the league and got sacked at Chelsea, so he's on a hiding to nothing, really. Let's face it. The jury was out last year. I think he got a free season. You're right. Listen, if they're struggling come sort of November, December time, he's got to look behind his back. I think, young Frank.
He has, but with the quality they've got, they shouldn't be suffering. So this is the real test for him. He's got what he wanted. Now he's got to show his credentials. And so far, to be fair to him, at Derby and at Chelsea last season, yes, a few times last season you kind of went, tactically you were a bit off. But actually, he's done a pretty good job so far.
Now, I am taking it from the conversation that we talked about earlier. I think we've gone down the same route for 1st and 2nd. I think, if I'm right in saying, you've gone probably Liverpool 2nd and Manchester City 1st.
I have.
And so have I, actually.
For all the reasons we said earlier. The lack of activity at Liverpool.
Yeah.
Feeling that they're potentially standing still. Will Firmino come back and have a better season? And I say better season primarily from a goal-scoring perspective. Where's the backup for him? Where is the backup for Salah or Mane if they have an issue or an injury? And actually, I think the desire from Liverpool, regardless of what anyone says, will be dented. And the lack of new purchases and strengthening makes me just question it a little more. So that's why I've gone Man City top as well, because I just think Guardiola, that will have hurt him last season. It really will have hurt him big time. And I think he'll put it right. And I think in the signing of Ake, he has. And I think in the likes of, Torres, adding that quality further forward as well. I really think De Bruyne again will have a terrific season. And it'll be a good farewell season, probably from Sergio Aguero.
Yeah, of course. I'd agree with that. I think Klopp is, I still think they need to make a couple of signings. And obviously, our predictions could change, but we've got still 3 weeks left of the transfer window. So, our predictions could change in the next 3 weeks, but we're not allowed to change them. We've gone for what we've gone for. Let's see if we're right at the end of the season. Your dulcet tones are where this weekend, young Adam?
My dulcet tones are just up the road from where I am right now, because despite having pictures of London in the background, I'm actually near Birmingham. So I will be watching Birmingham against Brentford, which, I know we're talking Premier League, but in terms of Championship, one of the, if not the best footballing side in the Championship last season against the Birmingham City side, who've not won a game of football since February.
Brilliant. And are you planning to take your Christmas decorations down before you get to Christmas, or not? You know.
Listen, I'm parked away in my eldest daughter's bedroom, and she likes having fancy lights on the walls. So fairy lights all the way.
Okay. So we'll see you next time. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed this very first Premier League countdown. And myself and Adam, as I say, will be back very soon talking. Well, let's see how we did our first week. Who knows? You know, we're no experts. Well, Adam's more of an expert than I am, to be perfectly honest. He knows more about football than I do. Although he supports West Ham, which probably tells you he doesn't really know too much. But we'll leave it at that. And Adam, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you giving up your time. You're a busy man, as we know. And as I say, you can catch Adam on TalkSport every weekend. He's commentating on all the big games for TalkSport. So, Adam, take care.
Cheers, Richie.
All the best.